Hey everyone, welcome to this particular Navigate session. And I'm joined by a very, very special guest, none other than Chris Helder. Chris, great to have you here.
Thanks so much, Michael. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Now, if you don't know Chris, Chris has been involved in the real estate profession and also doing amazing work across the globe around helping people embrace useful beliefs, shifting from a motivation kind of a conversation to a real sense of purpose, direction, and focus. Has written some amazing books, Useful Beliefs. Your book on influencing, Chris, I know was a bestseller around it. So we're really in for, I think, some amazing insights because, Chris, you've been able to, you're in it, but also had that wonderful perspective, and I truly respect it, this ability for you to see sort of a global view and a twist and a turn that's happened in this time frame. And what's interesting, there's no question there's been a lot of health, safety, economic issues that have been coming our way in different modes, and people are handling it in different ways, aren't they?
Oh, everybody's been handling it in different ways, and I think some people have handled it better than others, I think. But either way, nobody saw this coming, Michael. Nobody saw this coming. I used to think about what could derail my business, and I would think throat cancer, or there might be something else. I don't know. Look, I never thought the ability to or inability for people to gather would actually never cross my mind.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating from that point of view. So Chris, you're known for going and doing keynotes at conferences and all that sort of thing. I mean, your business obviously has changed because no travel. It's probably the longest time you haven't been on an aircraft for years. Is that fair to say?
That's totally fair to say. It's 20 years probably before I've spent this much time at home. And first of all, Michael, thanks for having me on with everybody. I love your group, and it's so great to be a part of it and just have a chat today about things, because I think every single person is dealing with this in such a different way, and I really want to be just very respectful about what everybody's going through. This is an amazing time in history, and I was saying to you, some people have told me this has been a wonderful time for them, and that they've been down at Point Lonsdale with their family drinking Pinot, and other people have just been in lockdown enjoying their family. Other people have really been hurting, and of course my country has been in complete turmoil, and so it has really been an amazing time in history. It really has.
Yeah. So given that, one of the things I think is that some people who are tuning in here might be and say, hey, that's me. I'm actually going through that little bit of a hard time.
Yeah.
Love to get your sense of advice there. And others are saying, well, we've really utilized this time to shore up the ship, put some things in place, work on some things and build that. What's your advice for someone in both of those situations?
Yeah, I think that's really good, Michael, because I think it's really important that we recognize that some people may have straight out of the gate been like, you know what, I'm going to make sure I maximize this time, use this time, and as you say, shore up the ship. And congratulations if that's been you. Well done. Not everybody's been in a position, maybe mentally, and obviously mental wellness and mental health is a big part of where I spend my space, with people. And I don't want people to feel bad if they haven't done that. I mean, again, what's done is done. And maybe you've had 3 months where you were stuck homeschooling children, and maybe you had 3 months where maybe your marriage struggled through this period of time, or maybe you had 3 months where you just felt sad, and nobody feel bad about that. This is an unprecedented time, and I guess I just want to be able to give you the gift today of saying it's okay, and you're not alone. And there were a lot of people who went through that period of time, and almost if we looked at it as a journey to get to a place today to say, whether you've been productive or whether you've been depressed or tired or anxious, whatever it brought you to today, it's almost like on our journey. I want today to be almost a COVID checkpoint. On our hike, this is a point where we can stop and rest for a minute and actually look at the view and actually take stock. And I think there's so much going on in our head all the time to actually stop, take stock, and really look around and go, okay, have I done this as well as I wanted? Yes or no? No guilt, but just what can I take from this time? And what am I bringing with me moving forward? What have I learned about myself? What have I learned about what I fall into in the face of adversity? And what do I learn about myself and falling into the face of challenge? It's okay. We are all coming from this in so many different spaces and places that I really want people to respect their own journey and get away from comparing themselves to everybody else.
So, Chris, I love this COVID checkpoint because, we both know that real estate is a very, very hungry business. So no matter how many hours you give real estate, it will want more.
Yes.
And you can get caught in that mode of working in the business really intensely and not actually focus on working on it. So I love this concept of the COVID checkpoint. What is the 2020 wisdom I've gained so far?
Yeah.
And then what's the next stage of the journey from there? Any advice on that next stage?
Well, I think the next stage is exciting. And I think if we think about, I'm going to go back to a little bit of my useful belief from here. And I think we're going to start to see people come together. And even if people need a month yet, it's going to take another month for us to even really start to, I think, where people are going to want to hear from you, maybe more than they did before. And so use the month. Use maybe this next month as almost a transitional period in the season, with the idea that you're going to explode coming out of here in about 30 days. And so, and in 30 days we're going to get back to some sense of, again, what are the things that you're going to bring with you moving forward from the perspective of routine, from the perspective of process, from the perspective of ego. And when I say that, I'm very big on, I don't know about you, Michael, but I might have met one or two real estate agents with an ego over the years. It's possible. It's possible. And I think that ego is going to play less moving forward. I think one of the things Zoom's taught us, I think one of the things that pain has taught us, and one of the things that, this community coronavirus has taught us, and, is that, and right down to America and Black Lives Matter and what's going on there. I think we're in a place globally that ego is going to be less admired and authenticity will be greatly admired, and being real. So again, how can you bring more of yourself to real estate? How can you bring more of the real, true, authentic you to the real estate piece? And again, use the next 30 days, work it out, start to think about, what, that was stupid what I used to do. We all have bad habits. I have bad habits. We all go, what, I don't want that anymore. I'm done with that. Or, and maybe this is a time to get rid of people, by the way. Get rid of people, get rid of habits, get rid of toxic stuff from your life, decide what you're going to bring forward into the future.
And Chris, one of the things that I know you've heard me share, the unpacking your bags. Yeah. So this is a great time to say, what am I taking forward with me and what am I letting go? In ancient days, when tribes move from one particular location to another, they do a sort of a ritual, and a moving ritual. So this is a really interesting point. And that question is, what am I taking with me? What am I going to leave behind? What no longer serves me? And how can I be even more authentic in terms of who I'm being and how I'm operating? And if you're tuning in here, please write that question down, because I think not only will it be less admired, the ego, it'll be less respected. So, and one of the things that I'm seeing the best businesses out there and the best leaders doing is they're becoming and understanding that leadership premium is coming into play with their authentic self and their particular style, not being someone else, but actually being the best version of themselves. And in saying that, clients are needing quite a bit of nurturing right now. So they're not needing a wham bam, listing experience. They're needing to be held through the process and feel incredibly confident that hey, I'm in the right situation. I've said before on these that if confidence is missing, people won't take action. So we need to be the confidence creators in there, but coming from that authentic space, not like, how good are we? We've just sold this many properties. I don't know what the problem is. The market's on the move. The other thing that I think is, that you're referring to here is some people have gone through this and we didn't see this coming. Some businesses probably are going to do it it may not make it through this, and not necessarily in real estate, but in other industries. We can't make that person feel bad about a business failure right now because it was so left of field that they weren't able to actually get through this. What we need to be for them is the support to say, hey, your next venture will be better than this. The biggest thing that's helped me is that, I've written down the 2020 wisdom that you just talked about. What have we learned from this? So grab your learnings, and your next venture is going to be more successful than the last one, and really help them, help the community, and be that community agent that people can really count on.
I love that, Michael. And I think, you know, I think the way we can help people create confidence as well is to not judge, but truly step into their shoes. And as you say, we haven't seen this coming. This was a surprise for so many people. And, you know, I've talked for years and years and years about the first position is about what's going on for you. First position is, you know, what about me? What's happening for me? What's going on for me? Where that second position shift is to really step into other people's shoes. And you know, somebody asked me recently, they said, Chris, what does it mean actually to drive from the heart? What does that even mean? And I said, it's very simple. The heart doesn't judge. The heart doesn't judge. When you are driving from the heart, you're not looking at your vendor going, this guy's a dickhead. And you're not looking at this coworker saying, that guy was lazy during COVID. Or you're not looking at somebody else going, you know, hey, that guy's not this or not that. She's not this, she's not that. The heart doesn't judge. And when we can drive from a place of authenticity, we know we're judging, then we're driving from ego. We're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to protect some self-feeling, when really, if we drive from the heart, we're in that second position space where we're not judging and we're understanding. And that's going to be, I think, a really big part of listing moving forward over the next 12 months.
That is my favorite quote of the month, by the way. The heart doesn't judge. I love it. So cool. So cool. Now, useful beliefs. You know, the book Useful Beliefs is great. I know you're doing some great things for agencies and small businesses where you're actually helping them either via Zoom or actually, you know, in certain regions being able to actually even go into their offices.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about useful beliefs? And I know some people on here would have heard you talk about that, but others really it's a new concept. And, you know, I'm massive on, we've got limiting beliefs or empowering beliefs.
Yeah.
I just love your cut of the useful beliefs.
Yep, good. Simplest terms, and it's been put to the test. Yeah, it's been put to the test for me, Michael. You know, I think I had 59 gigs lined up, and in a 72-hour period, that went from 59 to 0. You know, and that's okay. And you know, again, I want to say, you know, useful beliefs is all about the fact that sometimes reality hits us, and grief, by the way, is part of the reality. I reserve the right to feel bad about that for a little bit of period of time. There's nothing wrong with that. We've all been hit with reality. But it's identifying then from that point on, we have a reality. What's my most useful thing to believe about why this happened? What's my most useful action to take? So what I got away from was trying to be positive, because positive for me became very up and down. So positive thinking, then you're negative, then you're positive, then you're negative. So to get away from emotive thinking and starting to get ourselves in a place of practicality and pragmatism, so that we started to think about what's useful, what's a useful response to this stimulus that is coming in. Useful belief, you know what, this is going to be a great thing for the world, you know, and starting to train our brain to go see opportunity and train our brain to go see the beauty in the world. So that's, you know, I think really where, you know, and it's not always easy. It's not always easy, but it does work. And it does work because, you know, and again, I reserve the right for people to feel sad. That grief is part of any process to get better. Any healing process, grief is a critical component of it. So don't feel like if things fell apart for you, that you felt bad about it, that you should feel guilty about it, because that's not where I'm coming from. I'm about let that have happened and now be in a situation where you go, okay, I'm ready now. I'm at the COVID lookout. I'm ready now. What's my most useful belief about the world, belief about why this happened? What's my most useful actions moving forward? And let's get away from the emotion of I feel good today, I feel bad today. Someone described COVID to me. They said, COVID's like one of those things that one day you wake up and you go, this is going to be great for the world and the community and how we're nice to each other. And the next morning you wake up and you want to drink gin at 9 a.m. And I think that has been the experience for so many people, that it is up and then it's down and it's up and it's down. And I think that's fine. That's okay. And that's where we've been. And I think now moving forward, useful beliefs, useful actions, right? Let's start thinking practically and pragmatically about what that, you know, second half of 2020 is going to look like.
And Chris, what I love about this, you're actually asking us to think about how we're thinking. We tend as human beings, we just think. and we're not even aware we're in a pattern before we
Love
even
it.
know it. Whereas, well, what's my useful belief around time? What's my useful belief around clients? What's my useful belief around prospecting? What is my useful beliefs around building a team? What are my useful beliefs around recruiting, and why someone want to come and actually be part of us?
Exactly.
And all of a sudden you can start to look at those various areas and say, all right, how do I shift this up a notch or two? And just because we've had a belief, I talk about the concept of a book of old beliefs. So, and we could have people working from home here and tuning in from home, so we better not mention who. But there are beliefs that we held as little tackers, as kids, that we now put into our book of old beliefs. So, and we can respect them and say, oh, remember the time when we used to think that we had to wait in a line at a bank to get money out, and we had to get our passbook stamped, and that was the only way to get money. That's in our book of old beliefs now. And by the way, some people who are tuning in here saying, really? No, it's always been a piece of plastic. Like, that's interesting. For me, interesting, Chris, on this particular point, COVID for me now, and I've reprocessed this, is it's challenging my commitment. So it's actually saying, what are you really committed to? The second thing is the O is for opportunity. So where's the opportunity in this? And making sure that I'm looking out for the opportunity. The V is for vision. It's actually asking me to reset my vision. Is it still valid? Is it where you're going? The I is looking for innovation. And then the D is drive, because none of that's going to happen unless I've got the drive to be able to do it. So, commitment, opportunity, vision, innovation, and drive.
Love
and we can reframe it in that particular way. It's been far more useful for me and for our clients actually taking that on board. Could you give me a simple example of useful beliefs for, say, a real estate agent or for a leader wanting to help an agent almost reframe a belief that they might have held in a particular area?
Yeah, I think there's so many. I mean, there's been so many that, gosh, real estate would be loaded with non-useful beliefs. From buyers are liars. So there's one. That's just one that popped in my head. All the way through to Monday morning meetings aren't helpful, or my boss is only about himself, or there could be so many of them, in terms of, right down to the market's not strong. And I think, there's opportunity in every market. We always say this with, I always joke that there's always that one property on the stock list that nobody can sell, and it sits there forever and ever and ever. And who's the one person that sells it every time? It's always the new person, right? Because they walk into an office and they've got no filter about the fact that house is overpriced. There's a non-useful belief. And getting back to, starting to think about Monday mornings are useful. They're opportunities for me. My boss has wisdom. Let me sit down and see if I can pick his brain and have this, start to incorporate some of those things into my world. Buyers are an opportunity to build relationships. My database is an opportunity for me to build relationships, not just to make money. My database is an opportunity for me to get to know people and understand the market. Studying realestate.com or domain or whatever, understanding my market is key to my success. That's a useful belief. Not, I hate sitting here looking at properties. So there are so many of them that I think we can train our brain around. That. And Michael, I wrote a book, by the way, worst time ever in the history of the world to no, that's not a useful belief, but let me say this. I'm re-releasing the book. Book came out April 1.
The most interesting time to release a book, because there's so many things I'm learning right now that for the re-release, it's going to be so much better.
Boom! And that's what I'm talking about, Michael Sheargold. And here we go. So, but this one, and the real reason I bring it up right now, the simple shift, is because I think what happens too, that I want to just, I want everyone to be nice to themselves this time. Because what I really think is that we get overwhelmed. And all of a sudden I think, oh, well, hang on, now I have to have some pressure to change my life after COVID. Now I have to have some pressure to be something great and be something different. And I just called it the simple shift for this reason. It's really about, and you talk about vision, you talk about being clear, and then it's about just taking a step and then taking another step. And then and it's a simple shift where you don't have to transform yourself by lunchtime today. And when we do that, what happens is we get overwhelmed and then we fall negative again. And we're back into that emotive game, right? It's a simple shift. It's one step, then two steps, then three. And all of a sudden we look back behind us, we go, hey, 3 steps in, this is pretty good. And all of a sudden we start to put patterns together and we start to go, hey, I love that idea Michael brought up, or I love that idea Chris brought up, or I love that idea that came in from that person. And, next thing you know, you're putting those things into place. And so, again, I see so many people get overwhelmed with training, or they get overwhelmed with conferences, or they take all those notes and then they go back and they don't use them. It's not about transformation. It's about step by step, starting to piece together something that really works for you.
So Chris, I love this term, by the way, the simple shift. So I'm imagining the leaders on here, and there's probably quite a few leaders who are tuned in, to be able to see and say, what's the simple shift you need to make in your prospecting? What's the simple shift you can make at your listing appointment? What's the simple shift you can make in the way you're presenting yourself to the market in terms of your social strategy? And that's so cool to take it on board. And one of those simple shifts is that a lot of people are waiting to feel 100% perfect, and I'm feeling it before they get into action. Yeah. Whereas you and I both know a lot of the time it's getting in action is the thing that actually has you feel that particular way. After I go for a run, I'm going to feel more energized than maybe before I go for the run. So if I wait for the perfect feeling, I may not do the run.
I love it so much. How often do we see people go, as soon as I get my database organized, I'll start calling it. In the meantime, they go out of business in 3 months, never having made a phone call. It's like, ring it and then adjust. It's the same thing.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So one of the other things that I know you're great at is this noise conversation, sort of turn down the noise, cut the noise. Could you talk a little bit about that as a concept? And, no doubt there's a heck of a lot of noise coming at us externally and also internally. Yep. The thing we've been talking about with clients is be informed but not overwhelmed in terms of what's happening in the world. Because if we play the overwhelm game, it can tend to chunk us out of doing what we need to do.
It's funny. I'm a big person on filtering and deciding what I want to listen to. Now I'm gonna do that. I did hear a speaker yesterday say 2 minutes in the morning of news and 2 minutes at night. That's all I'm gonna allow myself. And I have to say the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, I suppose for me, and that's not a criticism of this person, but I think for me actually the last 2, 3, 4 weeks was a recognition that I'm living history. And I think for me, it wasn't that. I actually wanted to consume that a little bit because, this is such an amazing time in history. I mean, what is happening around the globe, around our level of awareness and our level of misunderstanding versus our level of hope for understanding. And so I guess, I probably made a conscious decision, going back to your thinking about thinking, making conscious decisions about what I want to consume. And I have to say, I wanted to consume the last month. I did want to consume the last month because I think, it has been a piece of history that has been wonderful. I think on a day-to-day basis, it's critical that we don't get sucked into the world of, there was a burglary in Brisbane, there was a fire in the Gold Coast, there was a traffic jam, and there was people yelling at each other in Parliament, and there was somebody who said real estate was this, or toxic boys in the office. And he's going, I can't believe the market. I can't believe the market. Or, Michael overvalued that. He reckons he's going to get 2 million for that. He's dreaming. Like, I think for me, I look at stuff that's valuable or not valuable. And, we can go back to the word useful, or I felt the last month for me was useful to consume. I had the time to consume it. I was excited by what I was seeing on a global front, excited by the energy and passion that I was seeing with human beings. And I think, the flip of it is, I think on a day-to-day basis, ask yourself this question. It goes back to useful. It goes back to what's useful, what's not, what matters, what's not, what's empowering and what's not, and back to your empowering beliefs. But what's the stuff that counts in life? And this is, we don't ever mean to be the bearer of bad news, but the survival rate on this planet is 0%. I think that's become apparent, right? That is, we now know that. Yeah. So, in 100 years, we're nothing more than a paragraph on Ancestry.com. So I would suggest that we make this our time. This is it. And so many people, Michael, they spend time thinking about other times that were better than this time. And you know what? No, this is exciting. What are you going to consume? And what are you going to get rid of? This is your time. This is, you don't have time to deal with everything. And I think that's been one of the great things. Saying no is okay. Saying no to things that are not useful is okay.
Yeah, that's brilliant, and I love the simple: is this valuable or not valuable? So move to the value, the value for you in your life. One of the concepts that we've got at the moment is we've got obviously a health and safety kind of an economic set of circumstances. We've got the US who literally are in a fuel for change on a number of different levels. With that would be an interesting sort of view that you've got as to how that's actually erupted, we call it.
Well, it has erupted. And I mean, first of all, that was, it was there are no words to describe what happened to George Floyd. I mean, it is remarkable. But I think the second thing, just on a global front for all of us to realize that maybe the perspective that we've all thought we had might not have actually been right. And I think, again, let me go back to the COVID checkpoint. The perspective on a lot of things that maybe I thought I had, that just because we had those perspectives in the past, or just because we thought we knew what we thought we knew in the past, and maybe we were right, maybe we were wrong, but all of a sudden to stop at the checkpoint and go, well, let's be open anyway, and let's actually listen for once in our life, to actually, maybe as agents, to stop talking for a minute and just take the next 30 days and listen to as many ideas as we can. And I mean, the one thing you and I both know in life is that we've seen agents that are successful that are short and tall and heavy and skinny and male and female and every color under the rainbow. So the thing of it is, right, in every different way, people can be successful. So I think there's not one formula. And I think, for all of us, maybe there's a time and place for us to stop and listen and be open to maybe what I thought wasn't what I thought. And maybe I didn't think it was like that. And now maybe I'm being told it was like that. And all those different things that we can look at and go, from the end of it, that we really hit the ground running in July, hit the ground running in August with our business in a way that is going to empower us to do business better. And there's going to be so many things. The ability to be more casual, I think, is going to be a great thing for agents. The ability just to be, quicker and more effective, and maybe not have to have their tie perfectly in place to have a conversation with people. I think the speed of information, the speed of knowledge, and how we cut out junk that doesn't matter, how we streamline things with technology, how we get better at using the things that are going to get rid of the paperwork, and how it is we're going to use assistance in a more effective manner to cut through some of that noise. So, I think there's not one formula, but make sure you use the next 30 days to identify what are the things that you're going to have part of your process. Because Michael, you and I both know that you could take a look at the top 50 agents in the country, and they look different, they act different, they're from different part of the country, all the above. But the one thing they all have in common is they have a process and they follow it. And that is what they have.
Yeah. So Chris, there's a couple of things that I'm loving about this is the COVID checkpoint, which we really started early in the conversation. Grab your 2020 wisdom, and then this simple shift. You're looking through a lens out this way from your COVID checkpoint. Is it the possibility for you to shift it just slightly over to this way and go, hang on, there's a whole new possibility here. And then that simple shift is, what are the steps I'm going to take towards that particular direction? And the other thing I really love about what you're saying is, what's my formula that I'm going to run with? And I think too often people go schizo in real estate, where they hear someone, they watch a video of an agent being interviewed and they say, that's it. And off they go for a week or two and follow that particular pathway, as opposed to what resonates with me. What is it that I need to shift? What's the best version of me I can actually be? And then literally put those steps into play in the direction that they want to go.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Fantastic. The being connected piece, you're very, very strong in that particular framework. And, I've actually seen you I'll use it work a room. And I think you're just this master at being able to have connected conversations with people. Any tips on that, you know, we've talked with our clients about care calls and value calls. So, you know, a care call is coming in from a caring point of view, and it may move from a care call to value. And there are other people that, no, I don't need a care call. I need a value call. What's going on in the marketplace? Where are we at? What do we need to do?
Love it.
Any tips on that?
Well, I think, I mean, obviously I wrote a book on influence as well. And, you know, how it is that we approach people. And one of the things, you know, that I've seen, obviously a lot of agents have that machine gun approach where they go in, they're like, this is what we do. You know, we've sold 97% of properties. We have 75% clearance rate here, and we do this, and we get the highest results. And it, you know, and I think, you know, I do go back that I think there's so much in, Michael, our ability to adapt to different kinds of people. And I think, you know, to take that beat and actually really think about, you know, with each type of person, you know, whether it's a care call or a value call, the approach of that is going to be from their perspective. You know, who are John and Jody, right? John and Jody, they live in Sydney. John's an accountant, right? And Jody is a lawyer, right? And I know John he's blue personality because he's an accountant, and I know he's analytics and numbers and data, and Jody's busy and she's red and she's a lawyer, and she's, you know, I've got to make sure with her I get the bullet points right. And you know, really understanding this study of people. It might be, you know, you've got, you know, Mary and Gladys who are selling their house, and you know, Mary's quiet and calm and peaceful, and my ability to go in that way. And Gladys talks a mile a minute, and you know, she's yellow, and you know, but even to be able to do some simple recognition around pacing, and that idea of matching, and that idea of going to their world and presenting information in the way they want it to be presented. You know, it's some stuff that I've been talking about in a way for about 20 years, but you know, it's more relevant now than ever. And, you know, just to be able to really think about how it is that people want to receive their information. And the great thing, Michael, is in the past, you know, we had these proposals that we had, and we were really stuck to the proposal. I mean, it was like, you know, I've got my ABC real estate proposal and I'm stuck to it, and I'm going to flick pages now in it. And I think today, because the way we present information is so varied, we really more than ever have the ability to adapt that information and how that comes to the client.
Yeah, great. So we should have those as reference points, but it's no longer, and the next page is, and the next page is, and the next page is. It's like yawn stretch. And what I love about this, Chris, earlier you talked about first position me, second position the client or the person in front of you, you know, a family member and so on. Yes. So really stepping into some emotional intelligence there around some empathy with that particular person. And it's needed now more than ever. Could you just quickly walk through those colours? Because I know you just did them along those lines, but could you just maybe just step through those colours? So
that was going to be my teaser, Michael, so that people go, you know what we should do? We should get Chris into the office just to go through those colours in better detail. That was that was sort of what
sorry about that. Is there a chance that you could just do a little bit on that?
There is. With that, you know, four main personalities that go back all the way to Hippocrates, he of the Hippocratic Oath, who talked about the 4 different personalities thousands of years ago, who talked about them in terms of body fluids, and he had blood personalities and bile personalities and phlegm personalities. But Michael, I thought it's best if we leave body fluid out of today's interview. So
thank you.
Let's stick with 4 colors: red, yellow, aqua, blue is what I use. And in simplest terms, red is the result person. Boom, right? They're intense. They're getting things done. They want bullet points. Their conversation, they start checking their phone after 30 seconds. They're wanting the information. They're wanting you to deliver results. The yellow personality is also, you know, out there, but the yellow personality is talking a mile a minute. They love to talk about themselves. They want compliments. They want affirmation. They want to know everything's okay. They're very visual learners. The aqua, and I came up with aqua 20 years ago, just in case anyone ever ripped off my colors, you'd know it was me if they said aqua, and you'd know they ripped it off, because there's no logic in aqua. green is the color that should have been, but I say aqua just so I know anyone who ripped it off is taking mine. But aqua personality is the steady. They're the nicest people, the kindest people. They're the peaceful people, and I say that they're calmer, they're quieter, they're they're more introspective. They don't want the hard sell. They want to avoid confrontation. And the fourth personality is blue, which is blue is analytical and going through they're the accountants. They're going to be the process people. There's data. There's a right way and a wrong way to do every single thing in the world. So
yeah, great.
I'll never forget this guy. I was working with this company, and this guy in Melbourne, this guy raised his hand. He said, "Chris, is that a 100% accurate personality assessment tool?" And I was like, "No, Nick, but thank you for sharing your personality with all of us. I appreciate that." It isn't 100%, but it does give you a guide. And, it's really easy language for agents to use to go, hey, I reckon he's red, or I reckon she's aqua, and, thinking about how that works.
Yeah, and then obviously moving your style more towards that. By the way, in the chat, I'd love you to just to note down what style you think you are based on the colors. Are you red? Are you blue? Are you aqua? Or are you yellow? From that
we
point
can be a combination, Michael. I should make that point too. I mean, I'm very red yellow. I love chat. I love engagement. But I'm very result focused as well. My assistant Penny is blue, navy blue. I don't have time to go through that, but that's in the advanced course. But the navy blue, I have to, she's the one that organizes every aspect of that, because that's not my strength. I'm an ideas person. I'm getting results, making sales. I need that blue person behind me to make sure that that's happening.
Yeah, fantastic. And Chris, within that, then and I remember years ago there was one particular principal told me that every single agent needed to bring back an agency agreement and write in the top left-hand corner of the agency agreement the color of the eyes of the client. So by doing that, immediately you're actually truly looking at someone to be able to do that. We know, the eyes are the windows to the soul. Into me you see. I slow the word intimacy down into me you see. And what's interesting with this is in the top right-hand corner, imagine being able to say, and here is the style of this particular person, because in terms of color, because all of a sudden it means you've truly tuned into that person and delivered less about your style, more moved towards their style. So you'll never become their style if you're not, but you can deliver information, you can communicate in the way that they want it to be delivered to. Just awesome.
And again, I know people go too far down the path and they get obsessed with it. Simple shift. It's just a little thing where, hey, does that give you a little advantage in that time to be aware and awake? And that's what we're talking about, thinking, awake, be conscious. And that's so much about what it is.
Yeah. Hey, just had a great question come through. Glasses on for the question, by the way. David's asking if you've got two styles, like a husband and wife or partners at a listing appointment. Any tips on how you do that? You still got to cover both bases, don't you?
Oh, and it's not that hard to do. I mean, I've got David over here and I've got Mary over here, and David's blue. Again, this is just language, being aware. I look at David and say, David, obviously there's a process that we follow. And as an accountant, you'd recognize this process. What we've done at XYZ Real Estate is we've made sure that we follow that process across the board, because Mary, it's about getting result. At the end of the day, it's getting you the most money. You can switch back and forth. It can be, you can go from aqua yellow and, you can be David's aqua. David, obviously want you comfortable, throughout this process. And, my job's to make sure it is as, stress-free as we can possibly do that. And at the end of the day, Mary, we want to make sure that the house lives. We want to make sure, I'm going to help you, design this to where ultimately, we're going to be able to attract as many buyers to this place, because I love this house and I love what you've done with this house. So again, you can play it off in the same conversation, and that's the art form. So that's where it's fun.
Yeah. And look, this is where I have a saying, and that is, don't practice on clients. It's too expensive. And this is where, back to real estate, too often, we go out and do a $10,000, a $15,000, a $20,000, a $40,000, a $50,000 practice session in front of a real client. as opposed to the way you get good at this is by practicing it, starting to read the play and putting things into your style.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where, you know, training is so important. And Michael, you know, we know this. I mean, how many agents go out there and they blow 4 listings? They just punted $120,000. You can do a lot of training for $120,000. So it's, you know, it is so important to get good people in and, you know, get good trainers in and practice and work and get ideas and, you know, simple shift, put those little things into place.
Yeah, fantastic. So Chris, if someone wants to follow you, contact you, gain more of these amazing insights and learnings, and one of the things that I truly respect about you is I think you've done a magnificent job of taking complex things, brought them into everyday language that can be consumed in a way that I can take it and apply it and do something with it. And that's an art form. You know, I think it's easy to create something complex. It's harder to take the complex, make it simple, make it easy to consume, to be able to apply.
Thanks, Michael. I've always taken great pride in that and being able to make things applicable. So that's great.
Yeah. So getting in contact with you?
Get in contact with me. They can certainly send a message to my website at chrishelder.com. There's tons of videos. My TED Talk's up now on chrishelder.com as well. So happy for tons of video there. If they want to connect with me on Instagram as well, I've tried to put some fun stuff up, and that's actually where they can contact me directly as well. So at Chris Helder on Instagram.
Yeah, brilliant. Hey, Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure. You're clearly not doing keynotes at the moment. I mean, I imagine you're doing some Zooms into conferences and those kind of things, or into organizations. So if someone wants to grab hold and utilize your services, Zoom or a Google Hangouts an option?
Absolutely. So I'm doing over the next sort of 3 months, I'll be focused on small office training, and I'm obviously starting that in Vic in New South Wales, which is exciting. That starts on the 22nd. I think I'm booked for that entire week already with 5 gigs, 3 in Sydney and 2 in Melbourne. But I'm excited to get back to those small office, and you know, I don't often get a chance to do that. So this is fun, Michael. Like, I'm really going to be, you know, working with small offices and get back to it, which is going to be great. And then obviously Zoom as well. So, you know, doing Zoom and I've got some adjusted costings for COVID and adjusted costings for small office. And then who knows, maybe a few months, we might be starting to get back to our normal life in the sky, Michael. We'll see how it goes. And
Chris, the only thing I'd say is I don't think they're adjusted costs, they're adjusted investments, because you're not a cost, you're an investment in the growth, development and moving people forward. Guys, can we give Chris Helder a huge round of applause for the impact and who you're being? I talk about, from a leadership point of view, this leadership premium that we have for our businesses overall. You are a fantastic example of someone who's stepped into the authority, and you are an authority in this particular space. You've got amazing amounts of presence, and you're committed to making a difference and making an impact out there. So, Chris, thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your commitment. We're better for it in just this 45 minutes we've invested in today. But ongoingly, I just know who you are and what you're doing for the world is great. So thank you.
Michael, I love your work, mate. And it is an absolute pleasure to work with you anytime, all the time.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. And hey, look, the key to this is going to be, and this is going to be up for you guys to be able to review and have a look at. And one of the key things with this is, I think there's so much in this, Chris, to multiple watches would be of value. And potentially there's 3 or 4 team training sessions you might want to run as part of this to be able to say, let's take this on board. Or reflect with your leadership team. Take your leadership team and say, let's actually watch this. Okay, what do we need to change? What are our beliefs that we've got around the business, around our team, around what we're doing in the next steps, how we're growing market share, and starting to see that shift. And I agree, Chris, invest the next 30 days in that reflection mode when we get up onto the COVID checkpoint and say, is there a shift there that could make a massive difference to who we are and how we operate, and bring not ego, but real authenticity into the marketplace that people are going to embrace in a major way.
Awesome, Michael. Well done. Well done.
Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate your time, energy, and commitment. Bye for now.